Hello, everyone. I'm Maz Songerwala, and I have the privilege of leading the Application Service Excellence Organization here at Oracle. This organization encompasses customer support and customer success for Oracle Cloud applications. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the future of your Fusion application support experience. We've heard from our customers, those who are either in the cloud or are considering moving to the cloud, that their expectations on what it takes to support them have fundamentally shifted. It's critical then for any technology partner to be at the table with our customer, regardless of where they're at in the journey. Because only by doing so can we truly help elevate each other and make sure that you, our customers, are elevating your success. A few years ago, we made some radical changes in how we organized our key capabilities within the company. We created this organization and we took support and success and co-located them within our development organization. This was done so that we could remove the artificial barriers that sometimes exist by reporting lines being into different places. It allowed us to get the feedback from our clients, both from support tickets as well as conversations that we would have through our customer success teams, back into our development teams to create better products for you, which are easy to use and more intuitive. We pivoted from a transactional model, which is fairly typical in legacy on-prem footprints, which is very take a case, close a case, move on to the next case, and really started focusing on continuity of experience. Whether you're just starting to plan and onboard or going through implementation, or now you're live and you're really looking at how do I take up this continuous innovation that's available to me in the cloud, our customer expectations are such that they're looking at how are you advising and how are you providing me counsel on what I should be doing next. This is really, therefore, a set of guiding principles that we're looking at as a company to make sure that we are indeed that type of technology partner to you. You want to make sure that your experience is personalized, really understanding not only what you're trying to do with the product, but who the teams are on the ground, what the culture is of those particular teams, what measurements look like at each phase, and ensure we're providing you with what you really need when you really need it. This is then coupled with being far more predictive. In the cloud, the technology company actually is managing and operating this software on your behalf. How can we react to the signals that we might find in telemetry to remediate issues so that you don't have to tell us that something's wrong? And then finally, being purposeful. How are we going to help you understand what you should be considering next? That advice and counsel dimension is critical in establishing an ongoing partnership so that you're not only achieving the business objectives you set out for initially when you made the journey to cloud, but you're continuing to take advantage of new areas of business value that you may not have considered in the past. So how do we make this real? It's easy to say this. Every company will say they're customer-centric. They have the customer in mind when they're designing their experience. We really needed to break this into what does the journey look like? What are the different phases? And therefore, what are the expectations that you have at each of those phases? And what can you expect from partnering with Oracle? It starts with really an engagement model, which how do you expect to be connected to key critical capabilities across Oracle if you made the decision to come to Oracle Cloud Applications. This is synonymous with onboarding, like how are we making sure that we're setting ourselves up correctly on an ongoing cadence throughout our relationship. That involves creating a plan that can be perpetually updated based on where we're at. This can be from the very beginning around the first key milestones in an implementation, or it could be well after go live as we're looking at new capabilities which could enable your business. Alignment is key. How is governance put in place? Which are the different forums where we need to bring up issues and or establish the next set of milestones? Confirmation of value. At each step, we need to understand that did we achieve what we wanted to, and can we measure it, and what should be the next set of things we measure? Optimization and innovation, these go together. As your business evolves, as your business changes, how you take advantage of the technology, how you actually manage and operate that technology also needs to change and evolve. So optimizing and understanding is the way you've implemented this particular process still fit for purpose, is a critical dimension of really being successful in the cloud. And the benefit of being able to take up key innovations on a regular basis cannot be overlooked. This is something that requires planning. This requires us to really be thinking about what should our next set of objectives be. So what we've done is to try to understand at each of these individual phases, what are our clients looking for? And then how do we ultimately support you with tangible deliverables through designated resources such that you can feel that you're in good hands throughout that journey. Everything I'm going to be talking to you today is part of the Oracle Cloud Applications experience. It is not an additional fee. It is not additional services. It is part of what you get when you make a decision to go to Oracle Applications in the cloud. So let's start thinking about what are those key dimensions, right? We have onboarding, we have planning, we have adoption, we have success. We have key capabilities that our clients are expecting in each of those phases. It starts with making sure we get going successfully, like activate, provision, everything's ready to go. And as you're building up your specific implementation teams with your systems integrator of choice, making sure that we connect our key capabilities with that project team so we can really understand context, i.e. why and what and where, as well as how we work together on an ongoing basis. There is a dimension around expectations of support. Don't make this a transactional relationship, but rather really understand what I'm doing so when I have to call support, you already have that context. Plus, there's a dimension around success. In each of these different areas, we're going to be looking at a key set of North Stars, and as we achieve those North Stars, we have to be setting new North Stars. So coming up with things like a success plan, things like operational best practice reviews, general business reviews to make sure that we're on track, and ultimately proving that you are indeed getting business value is fundamental to our success experience, both through digital and personalized means. So what we're going to do now is deep dive into each of these different areas. Like, what is this and how would you consume it and what value would it bring? So let's start with a success plan. Sounds relatively trivial or easy to understand, but really this is something which is a living and breathing manifestation of what we jointly agree success looks like. This can be very tangible as a business goal. For example, you may start out by saying success means that I'm now able to close my books 50% faster than I was before. But it can also mean something which is very specific to where we're at in the project. It could be hey, we have a milestone coming up. It's a systems integration test. Success is making sure we get through that on time, on budget, on schedule. This becomes the basis by which we work together to understand how are we going to move this project forward correctly, and how do we understand what becomes critical to address if anything is inhibiting that progress. We found that our customers really value being able to codify and quantify and describe what this looks like, whether they're implementing, whether they're live and implementing yet new modules. This is something that becomes that almost treatise that we both agree to make sure that we are collectively aligned and staying focused. That then leads to the implementation itself. Once you have a success plan and you get going, there's an expectation now that as I'm working through transforming business process, taking how you've done things in the past and really taking advantage of the cloud, and you have to work with a support team to answer questions around how to configure certain things or solve for complex use cases, expectations are such that I shouldn't have to explain to a support engineer each time I call support what's going on. This is one of the big pet peeves of the on-prem model, where a lot of times they wouldn't be the appropriate context in the hands of support engineers to be able to understand what you were doing with the technology. In cloud, we have that context. So implementation support is something we can do fundamentally differently. And this is where I believe Oracle is truly differentiated. As part of any experience, we provide what we call the implementation support program. This is a designated virtual team of support experts who sit at the table across from you and your systems integrator to make sure that we address your needs from a support standpoint throughout the implementation. So when you have tickets, you're talking to the same types of people. If you have milestones coming up where specific issues need to be addressed because they may be blockers, you have advocates who are at the table with you. This virtual team is led by an implementation support lead. This is a named individual who will understand not only your project, but also the working team, the culture, how decisions are made, and become your advocate back into Oracle to progress your project. We've had tremendous success with this from hearing from our customers, because they feel that now not only are you in this with me, I have somebody who can go action things on my behalf within the broader business that is Oracle. We're finding that this particular role establishes that trusted advisor relationship, especially for all things support. And we stay engaged until you're live and successfully running your critical business processes in the cloud. Only when you feel comfortable that now you're able to run payroll successfully because your teams are now ready, will we roll this team off. So again, a virtual team of support experts who will, majority of your cases will be going to this particular team with a particular lead who's accountable for your success. Along the journey, there's a set of operational best practice elements, meaning it's one thing to be able to say, hey, here's what you have to do to take this business process and understand what this looks like in the cloud. However, to successfully manage and operate this in the cloud, there are a set of things that also need to occur. For example, if you're getting ready for a go live, have you done a dress rehearsal? Have you created your operational runbooks so that when you are live and you need to address an issue, that your teams are ready? Is your change management program in place so that your users can be educated on what's different and why it's better? This particular element, in conversations I've had with customers, has typically been underserved in the industry. Really understanding how to evolve what information technology does and how to successfully operate and manage in the cloud is sometimes as important as what the software is actually allowing you to do within your business. So in this particular case, we provide tangible deliverables at each step around what's relevant from an operational best practice perspective, so that you can be ensured that when you're live, you'll be good to go as you're running your business. Once you're live, we have and we continue to invest in business process monitoring. This allows us to look at when you're doing critical activities like period close, like payroll, and look at what's happening in your environment. Do we see anything which looks untoward? Are we seeing signals that things may be heading for a negative circumstance or a negative situation? This business process monitoring is then looked at by our DevOps teams and our support teams to remediate issues before you see them. In some cases, we do this completely behind the scenes. And in others, where this is very much tied to how you are scheduling specific business processes, think payroll, think period close, we get this information from you. And in an automated manner, we look at what's happening in your environment. And if we see anything that is of concern, we automatically raise severity 1 tickets with the appropriate support teams for that remediation. This is an area you'll see more and more improvement and more investment in, because you should never really have to tell us that something's going wrong. So stay tuned for a lot more in this space. We've made tremendous strides, and I'm excited about what the future holds. Ongoing, regardless of where you're at, business reviews are critical. This is where we check in on how are we doing with the success plan? Have we achieved what we set out to achieve? What should we be measuring? When should we be measuring these things? What are others doing in the industry to measure business value? This is a ongoing cadence where we work with your teams to ensure that we're reviewing what needs to be reviewed, but also surfacing areas which maybe you haven't thought through. So in this particular instance, this becomes just how you work with Oracle, an area which doesn't matter where you're at. You could be well into being live and consuming the technology. Is always an opportunity to learn more. I typically get asked, especially after talking about implementation support, what happens from a support perspective once I'm live? Here, we have relationships already established with our success landscape, which talk about the things which are actually important from an adoption and innovation standpoint. This is those business reviews. This is making sure you're using features and functionality. But at times, things can evolve. Your way in which you've used the technology may no longer be fit for purpose. Things like mergers and acquisitions, or if you've had a tremendous increase in the size of your company, and now you have to start thinking about how do you optimize what is happening or how your technology is actually being used. We, in this particular case, have monitoring which looks at, are we seeing trends which are concerning? Do we suddenly see that you've raised a significant set of service requests or support tickets that is unexpected? If that happens, we trigger a process where we assign a proactive support lead so that we can work your issues, run them to the ground, and get you back to a stable state. This also will deliver recommendations on how you evolve your use of the technology, how you're optimizing your use of your technology, so that you can really help your business evolve in taking advantage of the cloud application. And then finally, it's the value conversation. How will you know that you've achieved success? And this is where you actually expect the feature and function you're using to enable your particular business to be connected to a metric or KPI that matters to you. We deliver value adoption assessments on a regular basis, and this is really decided upon together on what we should be measuring and how we can connect that back into key business indicators. This allows us to be able to be sure that the business case you started out with is indeed being fulfilled. And it also allows us to understand whether you're getting not only incremental, but transformational value from your Oracle investment. Each of the elements I talked about cover the entire life cycle. It delivers, we believe, a continuity of experience where your dependence on advice and counsel really is coupled with making you self-sufficient so that you truly can be successful in the cloud on your own. This really is the basis for how we think about partnership, a business partnership, and success in the cloud. It's a personalized experience with high-touch named resources that can learn your environment, learn your people, learn your culture. It's a proactive engagement model where we're not just sitting and waiting for you to tell us that something is a question or something's gone wrong. And it's a focus on value. How will you know that you've achieved those business objectives? Ultimately, your success is our success. We continue to invest in this space. This is an area of transformation. Bringing these organizations together was a big, big step in making sure that we invest in the right areas so we can deliver on that purposeful, predictive, and personalized experience. Come with us on this journey. We're looking forward to hearing your feedback from this session, from this video, so that we can continue to raise the bar and improve the experience you have with Oracle. Thank you very much.